I'm Kier.
I'm Haley.
And I'm Jay from Gallifrey Public Radio,
a podcast member of the GonnaGeek Network.
Just like the one you're listening to right now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual.
Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready, because geekiness begins in 3,
2,
1.
You have been granted clearance by Director Phil Coulson. Stand by for S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
And now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Lobster.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe podcast. This is podcast number 80 on Daredevil Season 1, Episode 6, Condemned. This podcast is recorded on Wednesday, June 24th, 2015. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Agent Carter, Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix, and the general Marvel comic universe.
Because of road flares.
Ew.
Gross.
If you'd like to talk to us about road flares, you can find all of our contact information on our website, legendsofshield.com. You can also call and leave us a voicemail, 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube by searching for Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., or you can find our forums available at forums.gonnageek.com, or you can search for GonnaGeek on the Tepatalk app.
This time on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we're going to welcome Lobster back to the cast. We're going to talk Daredevil Condemned. We also have another in the series of Neil's Mighty Marvel Moments. We're going to have a little look at Agent Maria Hill's panel. And, of course, we're going to talk about the weekly Marvel news, your feedback, and, as always, we will be monitoring the chat at GonnaGeek.com/live. And we will be calling you out. Yes, we're going to call you out on the chat as we see fit.
So ominous.
I know.
So ominous.
Lobster, welcome back for your, umpteenth time guesting on the podcast.
Thanks for having me once again.
We're glad to have you. Just another Marvel enthusiast. I think enthusiast is...
It's almost a word.
I'm enthusiastic about this one, definitely.
Well, welcome back. So, of course, this is the 6th in our summer project on Daredevil. You know, this is the one that I was about least favorite of rewatching, but on the rewatch, it was a lot better than I remember it. So I'm like, oh, yay! So it was written by a couple of guys, Joe Polkask. I give up.
Joe Pakaski? Joe Pakaski. From Chicago.
I can't make the joke I want to make because this is a family-friendly show.
Yeah. And Marco Ramirez, and out of the two, Marco definitely has the more experience, but they are both they have a lot of experience between the two in industry. And it was directed by Guy Furland, who is, wow, his IMDb credits were amazing to me, what he's been doing. So, you know, as always, Stephen S. DeKnight has a good crew running his episode here.
Yeah. Listen, this show is one, and again, this is something that I always look for when I'm watching TV shows like this, is the way that they pick the crew to run a particular episode. And you can tell that, this episode doesn't have the sweeping action. Let's say, the last one that I was on, episode 2, with that hallway fight scene, right? There's no real equivalent in this episode, but it is a very tense, very intimate sort of thriller that it gives us. So you can definitely see the way the pedigree of these people working on the show matches with the episode, right?
Yep. And I was thinking about that. At the end of the episode, we have the access tunnel fight. It's not as long as the hallway fight scene. It's not as drawn out. You don't get the punishing back and forth, but these guys are really beat up to begin with. I mean, yeah, they're beat up at the beginning of the episode. And Matt has to take the road flare, as you noticed, Lobster, to Vladimir.
Yes.
And cauterize the wound and restart his heart and everything. These guys are just barely hanging on.
After what we went through the episode that I was last on, I've kind of missed the fallout from that, which is Matt taking down the Russians and then Kingpin also taking out the Russians. And obviously there was a moment in somebody got caught in a car door. We've all done it. I mean, well, maybe not to that extent. So there's a lot that's happened. And this episode picks up seconds. I mean, right from the last episode, right? Like, we see Matt cornered by the cops. Half the city just blew up. And that episode, if you're not binge watching the show already, you're like, okay, play next one right now. Gotta find out what happens. And this episode is just so intense coming off of that it slows down the action a little bit and just deals with the fallout, really.
Yeah, you get to see, you don't see any, as you lamented in our pre-show, you don't get to see any Vanessa, unfortunately. So we have to...
Right, I did, yeah. I missed out on Vanessa.
So we have to assume that she has been properly escorted home before the roads were closed or whatever. So there is that happens. We also don't get to see a lot of the additional evil League of Evil, but we do have an incredible phone call that happened.
Oh, man.
And for what it's worth, we start to find out more about the Evil League of Evil from basically other people's impressions of them. Like, Fisk mentions that he can't lie to Madame Gao because she always knows. And Vladimir gives us a little bit more about who Owlsley is to Fisk, right? By talking about Leslie Shumway and the relationship with Al Capone. Which
is kind of amusing because this past week I was just watching the Ken Burns Prohibition documentary. It's on Netflix. And then this happened again. And I completely forgot about that reference and my head just jerked up like, what?
Yeah. I thought it was amazing that Ben instantly, once he heard the addresses, knew that they were Russian locations.
He knows his stuff.
I think there was one address in particular he perked up on. He was like, wait, I know that one. And then he checked them and he was like, oh, I know all of them.
Okay.
It's like, I guess it has to be one of those things where, you've been working on this case and something has to stick in your mind.
It's written on one of those playing cards.
I know. Yeah. I was just going to bring that up. Wait, is there any significance to, like, Daredevil being the king of diamonds?
I think just because it's red.
Yeah.
I see.
Really, I don't think there was any significance to any of the cards except he put the Kingpin on a king.
Yeah.
And the rest of them, all his little goons were not Jokers, Jack. And everything else was random.
Okay. All right. So we have interaction going on around what's going on with Daredevil and Vladimir because Claire is treating Mrs. Cardona's. Foggy has gotten shrapnel, hit him in the chest too. He's in the hospital. Karen's in the hospital. So it was basically like almost two sets, right? Okay. So you had the news building as well, but you basically have the location that Daredevil's at. You have the location of the hospital, and that's basically a two location shot show.
It's not quite a bottle episode, which is, what they call when there's only one location, but it's close. Like we were saying earlier, it's very close, very intimate feeling, very closed in, kind of really gives you that sense of claustrophobia, I guess, of everything closing in on Matt and Vladimir. Yeah. At least it did to me.
Yeah, it was. I mean, how far are they going to go? I was surprised that he was able to carry him away from the scene while the cops were incapacitated, knocked out, whatever you want to call it. So I don't think there was much time that passed. And he had to knock Vladimir out because he wanted to kill him at the time. So he's basically dragging or carrying a deadweight body, and he's beat up himself, having just lived through an explosion and everything else that's going on in his life. So it must have been an incredible feat. I'm surprised that the cops didn't find him sooner.
Well, it seemed like they were in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, they also had all those Russians dead and dying and being killed to deal with.
Yeah, they had to go clean up that mess.
Got to shoot them all in the head.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to look good in the after-action report.
Right.
I was so happy I understood that one guy that he was still alive and they went and shot him. I was so happy I understood some of what he was saying in Russian.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Pожалуйста means please.
Oh, like please help or please kill me?
I'm not sure what else he was saying, but he was saying please.
It sounds pretty bad, but I don't speak a-hole. So.
Well, I would assume you would be able to understand a little bit more, Lauren. I mean, you had that whole Black Widow training earlier on this year.
She was sleeping through the language classes.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that I would understand more because I'm an a-hole.
Okay, yeah, that too.
Do you know who Leslie Shumway is?
Leslie Shumway?
Shumway.
Okay, so do we hate Vladimir at this point? Like, we hate him, right? Like,
right.
He's
a terrible person, but he was kind of badass in this episode.
You get a little sympathy for him, but at the same time, when you see Matt taking the road flare to him, you're like, yeah, he probably deserves that.
Okay, why would Matt tell Claire that it's Vladimir? Why?
Professional courtesy, not to hold any secrets back from her. I mean, they've gone past that.
He could tell her after.
Well, I mean...
Because then he's got to convince her to help, and he's kind of on a time crunch.
There's the chance he's on speakerphone, so she might figure it out anyway.
No, it's just some Russian.
Yeah, there's plenty going around. Not anymore.
Yeah, what's his name? Mikhail. I don't know.
Just don't let up no matter how much he screams. Is that professional or personal? Little both.
Little both.
Little both.
I really like that she told him not to take the bullet out. It's like, no.
Yeah, that's honestly a terrible idea. You look up what killed, I think, Grover Cleveland, and it was somebody fishing around with their dirty hands in his guts after they shot him.
Yeah.
He might have lived otherwise. I mean, granted, he was probably going to die anyway, Vladimir was, because, I mean, he did not look good.
He didn't look well.
No, he's had better days.
I mean, the fact that he was able to muster up enough strength to, like, surprise Matt and then go through 3 floors of the warehouse.
His heart did stop.
Really, when he was lifting up that manhole cover, he probably should have passed out.
Yeah, you know something busted open, and there's... I'm just thinking about it, and it's grossing me out.
Well, even as he was standing in the basement with the gun and everything, he was leaning against the wall. He was barely standing. I think the only thing that was keeping him alive was knowing that this was his last stand, and it was going to end soon. So just buck up a little bit. And of course, he's been through all that torture in the gulags too. So
yeah,
he's got some experience with this.
He's got a sturdy constitution, we'll say.
Well, to go through 2 floors, yeah, that's a 20-foot drop.
Now, did Matt land on him? I couldn't really tell.
Oh, I forgot to check.
It's
I think he might have.
Yeah,
you broke my fall and broke Vladimir.
It was like that when I found him.
He actually was.
So the cop that obviously walks in on them, he's just being a good cop, right? He's not one of the...
No, he's just being a good cop, and he thinks that Daredevil, the guy in the mask, whatever, is behind all this stuff because that's what they've been reporting, and he's a person of interest.
And he's going to be the hero and bring him in.
Yeah, and he's just really in the wrong place at the wrong time, given everything that happens after.
Right.
I felt pretty bad for him.
Yeah.
I know.
You could just see it on his face. They're like, oh, and Sullivan's dead. And he's like, oh, F you guys.
What?
No, they actually did say,
I know.
frack you on the captions. I didn't notice that before. I think that's the first time the F-bomb has been used in the Marvel-verse.
When he's gagged and you can't actually understand him, that's what he was saying?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. I'm going to have to go back and do that. Nice. Well, I don't go to the movies very much. I like records, though.
It's like, Matt, not the time. Not the time.
I've got a record collection. Is that what he says? I collect?
No, he says I like records.
No, he says I like records, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think he can listen to them just by running his fingers along the grooves?
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, if he can sense the tiny vibrations.
You think he could just kind of like wobble the record in the air and he'd know the songs?
I don't think he could do that by wobbling it, but I wonder if he could do it by just running his fingernail along the grooves.
Oh, if wobbling was it, then every Frisbee would be a record, too, as it's wobbling through the air. That'd be awesome.
There's the old joke about the blind person who picks up a cheese grater and says that's the most violent book I've ever read.
Oh, it's terrible.
Poor Ben, he's put in his place by the detectives. He's got the TV crew coming there. He holds his own, but at the same time, it's like, dude, the world is passing you by. And I think this is setting up for what eventually happens to him.
Spoilers.
Well, we've all seen it.
Yeah. But none of those TV crew guys had their hands on the dying cop's chest.
That's true. They were busy filming it.
Yeah.
Probably busy ducking for cover.
So maybe this is because I read a lot of true crime novels and stuff like that, but do cops really treat reporters just that badly? Especially because Ben Urich seems to be kind of a genuinely good one that doesn't seem like an ambulance chaser.
No.
Like he seems to be genuinely interested in...
I think you can get away with saying that to a newspaper reporter, but if it's a TV reporter with a camera, you would not.
He's got a history of breaking open crime syndicates.
That's true.
Yeah, which you'd think they'd be all on the side. Okay, so again, back to stuff that I am currently doing. Right now, I am listening to an audiobook of The Stranger Beside Me, which is a true crime book. It's about Ted Bundy, as written by Anne Rule, who was a police reporter who happened to know him, and she was contracted to write this book about these killings, and then, oh, hey, happens to be a friend of hers who's doing it. And she's talking about all the interaction that she has with the police, and she gets along very amicably with them because she's so thorough, and she's had this long association with them, and she's very professional. And then every true crime book that I've read where they have these long associations with the police, it's very amicable. So it's like, come on, guys, why are you treating him like that, you know? What's your deal?
You know what happens to them, too. So it's like, okay.
I know.
This is just a means to the end at this point in time.
All right. Can we talk about the cameo in this episode?
Yes.
Or at least the fan theory behind the cameo in this episode?
Do tell.
The sniper.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
They are saying, and by they, I mean the people on the internet that discuss such things are saying that, yeah, well, me, and others, are saying that could that be Bullseye? Because you never see the sniper, you never find out who the sniper is. You know that he works for Fisk. Kingpin, yeah.
I thought it was somebody that looked like a police sniper.
Well, yeah, they were dressed.
Very well could have been.
It was dressed like a police sniper, but it could have been Bullseye.
It could have been anybody.
Well, whoever it was, they had to get on the building in an ESU uniform.
Yeah.
To perpetrate the facade of what was going on. So
that's like one of the going theories.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt, if you will.
Grain of salt. Definitely. And you
Maybe
know what?
Larger.
I also forgot that this was kind of the end of the date between Karen and Foggy.
Right. They had ended up at Mrs. Cardena's place.
Okay. So Karen says she's had worst first dates.
Yeah.
What do y'all think her worst first date was?
I don't know. She's got quite a history, as we've discussed before.
The first episode, she goes on, well, not even really a date with the guy, and then he winds up dead and she's blamed for his murder.
Yeah, that's not a great date.
That's not great. At least she's not in jail.
I was hoping for angry bears. Like, you go to the zoo, the bears get out, they're very hungry because somebody forgot to feed them. Panic ensues. Basically, it's like Jurassic Park, but with bears.
I still have to see Jurassic World.
You do. It's fun.
Me too.
Pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. I talk about it on the Arthouse Legends vidcast with Jeannie and Eric. Check that out.
Will do.
Hashtag plug.
Hashtag plug.
Hashtag Steven's mom.
I love the reveal. Oh, boy.
And if you want to know what that's all about, listen to GonnaGeek 100. It's definitely, it's a thing. Anyway, Lobster, go ahead.
I love the reveal of Foggy realizing why he has a sharp pain in his side.
I know. It's like, oh, I was wondering what that was. Or that explains it. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Something like that. It looked like a bloody nipple.
That explains it. Explains what? The sharp pain in my side.
Okay, so Fisk basically, I think this is the first time that he said, I will never fool Gao. I'm just going to have to tell the truth because she'll find out anyway.
There are some people you just don't mess with, and Gao is one of them.
Apparently. They have so much of relationship through this entire series that I gotta believe that she and him will meet again.
Yeah, she better show up again. I'm just saying. You can't waste a character like that.
Yeah. Hopefully in December, right?
Oh, man, I hope so.
Yeah.
And if not then in the Iron Fist series for sure.
So, what did you guys think about this episode as a whole? Did it fit well? Did we need it? Was it missing something? Give me your impressions.
I think one of the keys with this series is pacing, and there are times when it's paced really well, and this episode is definitely one of them, in that it's not really doing any great narrative stuff in this episode. There's no flashbacks. Again, next week is a very flashback-heavy episode with Stick. This episode is dealing just in the present, just with the fallout of the hit on the Russians and taking out the Russians. But at the same time, it really sets up the situation that Matt's going to find himself in as he becomes Daredevil, in terms of now he's public enemy number one, and he's also really starting to understand this dilemma that he faces. And the conversation with Vladimir at the end is a good foreshadow of that, about once you put on that mask, you got into a cage with animals. Animals don't stop fighting. Speaking of, I guess, your bears.
Yeah.
Not until one of them is dead. And now he's really starting to realize that Fisk is not going to go quietly. There's probably not going to be an outcome where Fisk is going to really go on trial. And as much as Matt wants that to happen, this episode really foreshadows the fact that, yeah, it's probably going to come down to him or me.
He does find out Owsley's name in this. So if you're looking at his means, you go for, to use a military term, you go for the centers of gravity, and money definitely is a center of gravity, because without it, he can't do a lot of the stuff that he wants to do. Now that he's capable of doing stuff himself, but he's trying to reshape the city, and to do that, it has to be on a grand scale. So getting the accountant's name was definitely a large leap forward to that. But yeah, I would have to agree that even with that knowledge, he's got to know that he's not going to be able to bring him down like Capone.
And even just when he goes after Owsley in the next episode, it doesn't really work out so well for him.
He's kind of blindsided to what's going on around there. Yeah, I tried that time.
Not a lot of things work out super well for Matt this season.
Nope. So, Haley, what'd you think of the episode?
Kier talked a little bit about this last week, how last week's episode was discussed as a transitional episode. This week's episode is the transitional one of the season.
Yeah.
It's all fallout from last week and set up, well, not week, but from the last episode and set up for the next episodes to come.
Mm-hmm.
And the hero being painted as the villain, classic comic book trope. I love it.
Yeah. You knew that was coming.
Well, yeah.
Lauren?
Yeah, pretty much what y'all have said. I love that it's kind of, okay, I've been using this term a lot lately talking about TV shows that I'm watching, but it's kind of the deep breath between the two phases. But at the same time, it's not like, a pause where nothing happens. There's still a lot that's happening this episode where, yeah, we see the public opinion of Daredevil go from, much more clearly go from, oh yeah, that guy that's, knocking out muggers to, oh my God, this guy's blowing up the city. He's terrible. He's awful. We need to hunt him down. And we really see it driven in that there is going to be no quote unquote happy ending the way Matt sees it, where he just carts off Fisk to jail.
Yeah.
And yeah, what happens to Vladimir really drives that home. And oh man, that conversation, the radio conversation, I love it so much.
I read your tweet and you said, there's nothing funny to say. I'm just enjoying the conversation, or I'm taking it all in.
I think I was quiet for like 10, 15 minutes while that was going on. I was just staring at the TV, knitting furiously and listening to what was going on and just watching the screen. And then I was like, oh, right, I'm supposed to be tweeting.
This was a perfect episode for me to watch on the treadmill and just be able to watch and just be captivated by it, and then look down at the time and go, oh, okay, well, that went by fast. So yeah, captivated me for sure. So the only other note that I have that's worth mentioning is Vladimir mentions, you like little stick much better.
Yes.
So you got the stick mention in there. You got the little baton, which ultimately becomes his weapon of choice and stuff like that. So it's definitely a funny line there.
Plus, it's a penis metaphor.
Yes.
Thank you, Lauren.
Subtle jab there that he got in. I also think that's the, I want to invest in whatever company makes that police radio that also survives the fall through the warehouse and happens to be buried under the rubble and still works just fine.
Yeah, military grade, shockproof.
Yeah. Pretty good.
It's survive explosions, that sort of stuff. Yeah. Hey, Haley, did you have a chance to get any quotes in for this week?
Yes, I did, but one more note before I do quotes. When Fisk finds out that there's a reporter fishing around the scene, he says, turn his head. And his buddy's like, well, it's Ben Urich. And just his name is enough to know that he's beyond corruption. I thought that was really awesome.
Well, not only that, but he was involved in the fall of Union Allied.
Right, he wrote that story.
Yeah, it would be too much of a coincidence to have that happen here. Although, with all the death and destruction that has been happening in New York City over the past few years. I mean, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Has anybody seen a mention of the Hulk or what happened in Harlem or anything in this series at all?
I thought there was like a newspaper clipping on a wall somewhere, but I might have been imagining it.
There's a bunch of stuff in Ben's office.
I thought that was all referring to the Avengers battle and not the Hulk, but I could be mistaken.
When he broke Harlem.
Yeah. Anyway, so you've got that happened. You had the Battle of New York. You had everything that's going on now. There's just a lot of death and destruction going on in New York, and it's a broken city, and they're trying to repair it, but it's definitely not the strong, singularly focused New York that one would think. So if New York is ever singularly focused. But yeah, I think Ben is, I don't know, I could take that comment one of two ways. Yeah, I can believe it, but on the other hand, it's like, well, would it really matter? I don't know, especially since they're shooting all those Russians in the head.
No. Turn his head. That would be like bribe him.
Bribe him.
Get him to look away from what's going on.
Or, hide in his apartment and then strangle him.
I thought they meant they were going to shoot him along with Blake.
Yeah.
Oops.
I shouldn't have said
Spoilers.
that. Sorry.
Dude.
Sorry.
And then the only other quote I had is, American schools, almost as bad as Russian.
That was pretty great.
It's a little thing in this episode, but we find out that Claire, her boss, is it's the same hospital, and her boss is the administrator that Ben deals with his wife.
Well, and I think the administrator had mentioned before, her best nurse is out sick.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but there was never any confirmation of the correlation between the two. Now we have it. Yeah. And then she mentions that she made the biggest mistake of her life or something like that, or she made a big mistake or whatever.
She said she was in a car accident.
Yeah, well, I think that everybody saw through that because she was not injured at all.
Right.
And they do work in a hospital, so they can spot that sort of stuff.
Well, she was injured. She had like the bloody lip and I think she had a black eye.
Oh,
she had all those being beaten by Russian injuries.
She had been tuned up a little bit by Vladimir. So.
Yeah, and a baseball bat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, that's like a little thing, but again, it's kind of the shared universe that the show itself is building within this like little corner of New York. Yep. It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. All right. You guys got anything else to say about the episode?
Condemned. It's a good episode title. I like it a lot. It works. I think I talked about the title of Cutman when I was on last time. And so this title, it's interesting because obviously there's condemned in the like justice sense, but also they're probably in a condemned building.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least it should be condemned.
Yeah. Well, they fell through 3 floors. Right. So, I mean, the floors can't be that stable.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. The buildings that were chosen for explosion, demolition, whatever you want to call it, I think were chosen based on the fact that they needed to get rid of the inhabitants of either those buildings or the buildings around them. And with the buildings being so damaged by the explosion of the building next to it, they can't live there anymore. So I think it was more than just targeting the Russians. I think it was meant to take the city to the next step. Just my 2 cents.
Fisk is such a dick.
and as Fisk says, here's another quote that I enjoyed. He says, "Young man." I love that he calls him young man. Life is not a fairy tale. Not everyone deserves a happy ending. Yeah. And Fisk says that he wants to save the city only on a scale that matters, which I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah, they have that discussion about who's right and who's wrong and that sort of stuff. So.
And Fisk admits kind of like his admiration for or respect for Murdoch's conviction.
Yeah. Yep.
And then there's you tell me your name, I'll tell you mine. And he's like, I don't have a superhero code name yet.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's pretty much what he says. All right. Is that it for Condemned?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. So next week we will be coming back at you with Stick. Actually, we're going to be off for a week and a half. And we'll be coming back to you on July 12th talking Ant-Man. And then we're going to push the rest of the episodes beyond that, come back with Stick on July 22nd. It's because basically I have to go out of town for a couple of weeks and I'm going to be in areas where I cannot have internet connection, which imagine that. There are still areas like that in the nation. So that's what we're looking at. But we will be back with Stick. So if you have anything to say about any of the 6 episodes that we've already done, please hit us up and we will talk about that next time. So we have another special treat from Neil coming up. You guys ready to hear from him?
Yep.
All right. So for the past few weeks, Neil has been giving us his mighty Marvel moment. We have yet another one to bring to you, so I'm just going to press play and listen to the awesomeness.
Hi, true believers. Neil here with your Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel moment, covering new releases from the week of June 17th, 2015. So, in case you've missed it, we're still in the middle of Marvel's 2015 Secret Wars crossover event, but some of the books from before Secret Wars are still finishing up the original storylines. And trust me, there's a few titles here you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Leading off the pre-Secret Wars titles is Ms. Marvel number 16. There's no denying that Ms. Marvel has been one of the breakout books for Marvel in the past couple of years, and this issue is no exception, as Kamala has to deal with the fallout from a recent trip to New Adelan and a broken heart, as well as the Incursion event. Creator G. Willow Wilson continues to make the character relatable and finally gives readers the one team-up they've been waiting for. Deathlock number 9 brings the Marvel Universe's current Deathlock, Henry Hayes, face-to-face with the original Deathlock, Michael Collins, who was sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. to stop him. The action is non-stop in this issue, so if you're a fan of Deathlock in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this is a great opportunity to check out what he's up to in the comic books. Magneto number 19 sees the conclusion of the pre-Secret Wars Magneto storyline, leading up to the final clash against the Sentinel forces of the Ultimate Universe as part of the Incursion event. Through the use of flashbacks, this issue provides some insight into what's been going on behind the scenes, as well as the interactions between Magneto, his daughter Polaris, and his advisor Briar. Moon Knight number 16 is another solid issue by writer Colin Bunn, with art by Ron Atkins. Since it was relaunched in 2014, this Moon Knight series has marched to its own beat, and this issue continues that trend. It's a solid story that pretty much stands on its own, but what really stood out for me was how Ron Atkins used layers of watercolor textures to really make the panels pop. Gorgeous art, definitely worth checking out. Bucky Barnes the Winter Soldier number 9 also dropped this week, and to be honest, since I really wasn't up on this title, there was so much going on that left me a little confused. Between two versions of Bucky, Daisy Johnson in space, and Loki imprisoned by Ventolin, the entire series went back on the Start at number 1 list, and I'll probably wait for a trade to check it out. Now, let's dive into Secret Wars. Old Man Logan number 2 picks up with Logan scaling the shield wall and then running into some familiar faces. Old Man Logan number 1 blew me away with the art, the sweeping visuals, and the story. And while the art in this issue is just as strong, the story didn't grip me the same way, and I found myself missing the Wild West vistas from the first issue. For fans of a gritty take on Wolverine, or fans of the original Old Man Logan story, this Secret Wars series is a must-read. New this week is Runaways number 1 from writer Noel Stevenson, who also writes the breakout indie title Lumberjanes. Runaways looks at high school-age characters from around Battleworld who are attending Victor Von Doom's Institute for Gifted Youth. While I enjoyed the title, I was hoping for more of a Breakfast Club vibe and fewer quirky, superpowered high school hijinks. For fans of some of the younger X characters, or anyone reading Lumberjanes or DC's Gotham Academy, this is definitely worth checking out. Armor Wars number 2 picks up with Grand Marshal Jim Rhodes looking into the death of this corner of Battleworld's armored Spider-Man and unearthing some pretty deep intrigue, including a huge revelation that sets up this issue's cliffhanger. Tony and Pepper were absent this issue, which allowed for the development of some of the new characters introduced last week, as well as this series' villains. It also didn't feel as strong as issue number 1, but it's a great story with solid art, and I'm definitely sticking around for issue number 3. Deadpool's Secret Wars number 2 continues looking back at how Deadpool was actually a key part of the 1980s Secret Wars, at least as Deadpool remembers it. This issue was hilarious, as well as incredibly meta, even for a Deadpool issue, with a nod to the upcoming Deadpool movie, as well as toys from the 1980s Hasbro's Secret Wars line playing a major role. Squadron Sinister number 1 crosses the streams this week, and it's probably the most appropriate place to do so. Arrow writer and producer Mark Guggenheim kicks off his Secret Wars run with the evil version of the Squadron Supreme ruling the Utopolis corner of Battleworld. Given that Marvel originally introduced the Squadron Supreme in the 1970s as an intentional ripoff of the Justice League, the obvious references to trophies from DC heroes in a few panels is pretty amusing. This book was nearly my pick of the week, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And my Marvel pick of the week this week is Thor's #1. The Thors are Battleworld's police force, and this issue focuses on partners Beta Ray Bill and the Thor from the Ultimate Universe who catch a high-profile homicide with the markings of a serial killer making their way across Battleworld. The police procedural format, overlaid on a Secret Wars backdrop, really worked for me, and the cameos from all the Thors was awesome. That's it for new releases. Now let's dive into the long boxes where we crack open the Mylar and have a look at a classic back issue. My long box pick of the week for this week goes all the way back to December 1976 to take a look at Ms. Marvel issue #1. Given all the buzz about a Captain Marvel movie and the recent release of the Carol Corps #1, I want to go back and check out her origins and see how much the book had changed. In issue #1, Carol takes on the Scorpion while working at the Daily Bugle after having retired from the Air Force. With how the character has come into her own over the last 10 years, it was really jarring to see how she was written back then. But as I'm sure Haley can agree, sometimes seeing where a character came from is the best way of understanding who they are today. Again, that's issue #1 of Ms. Marvel from December 1976. That's it for this week, folks. If I've missed a release that came out, head over to the forums and share your thoughts, or send in a voicemail to the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. crew. Later, guys!
I can't wait for Neil to be on this podcast again because that awesome soundtrack will be with him.
Yeah,
just the whole time.
I do agree. Character origins are awesome.
What'd you think about the two Buckys, Lauren?
I haven't actually read that comic yet, but Bucky does show up in Runaways, so I was pretty happy because I got Bucky and Pixie, who's one of my other favorite characters. It was a pretty fun comic.
You have mentioned that Pixie is your favorite character on the podcast before.
Yeah, she's pretty great.
All right. Anything else about Neil's Marvel moment?
That all sounds pretty good. The Secret Wars is interesting.
Yeah,
Can't wait till I get there.
They're coming out with all these weird little variations.
Yeah.
Like this past week, they had Secret Wars of E is for Extinction, which was the X-Men arc that I kind of started getting back into briefly in the early 2000s. And I haven't actually read it yet. I've added it to my Comixology wish list, but the art is very reminiscent to Frank Quitely's art from back in the day, and it has all those characters back in their forms back like they were Beak before he got depowered, Angel Salvatore before she got depowered, Glob Herman. It's still pretty great. I can't wait to read that one.
I looked at the Marvel 2099 Secret Wars, or the Secret Wars 2099, which is like the future. Now this was again like back in the 90s, like they did the whole 2099 run, and then they brought Spider-Man 2099 back for a little bit, and now they're doing like the Avengers of the future, which is pretty cool.
Just can't wait to get some more time on when I'm on vacation. I am going to be taking my iPad mini with me, and I am in my iPhone, of course, and I am going to be reading some comics, so it'll be great. You guys ready to get into some news?
Yay!
Let's do it.
Actually, there is one more segment before we get to news. And
we're not ready to get into news.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a panel. I know. I looked down at my soundboard and there's this whole other segment in there. We have a panel with Cobie Smulders. It's going to be awesome. You guys ready for that?
Let's do it. Bring on the Cobie. Bring on the Smulders.
All right, here we go. So you ladies were just con-going fools this spring and early this summer. And you
'Tis the season.
I know. And you guys brought us some awesome audio. And Cobie Smulders, who plays Agent Maria Hill, had some things to say. And I have some clips, as always. And I'm just going to delve right into it. I have something to say about this first one, all right?
All right, so first of all, I just met you a couple moments ago.
Yes.
In the photo op. And I wanted to say thank you for being so damn cool.
Hey.
I mean, you seem like somebody that would be fun to hang out with. If we had some more time.
Let's go get a beer. What are we doing? Let's all go get a beer right now.
If Cobie asks you to go get a beer, you say yes. You don't go on and continue to ask your question. Jeez, dude.
Idiot.
I know. So tell me about this panel.
Okay, if I remember correctly, this was back in sort of, I guess, the middle-ish of May, so it's been a while. My memory isn't the best. But if I remember correctly, it was maybe like a half-hour long panel, a little over a half hour. She was a lot of fun. A lot of people asking her mostly about Marvel.
There was some How I Met Your Mother stuff sprinkled in there, too.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of How I Met Your Mother stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've never seen, so... Like, I didn't really get those references.
If you do, stop at episode 200. Just don't go any further than that, and you will be fine.
Yeah, I've heard that the ending was very disappointing, and I know there's a lot of jokes on Tumblr that Robin is really Maria Hill's secret identity or something. I'm not really sure. But, yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Lots of people going up in costume. It was pretty great.
It was. So, she was asked a question about Civil War, and this was her answer.
I actually have a question about Marvel.
For what?
For Marvel.
Okay.
And I know that you haven't been casted in Civil War, Captain America, but anyone here that hasn't read the comics knows that your character, Maria Hill, does play a big part in Civil War. Is there a chance that maybe we will come?
I feel like that is an area on which I cannot comment.
Fair. I thought I'd try.
Did you see the red dot show up right here? I kind of felt it. It got a little bit warm right here, so I don't think I can talk about that. But I'm sorry. But thank you. I like my jobs. I want to keep them.
If I was working for Marvel, I'd want to keep my jobs too.
I like that everyone knows about the Marvel snipers. It's not even a joke. It's really part of the contracts. They've all been told about it.
I think every panel that we went to that had a Marvel actor mentioned the Marvel snipers at least once.
See, Edwards James Olmos went ahead and revealed stuff, and look what happened to his character.
And you never saw him again. Have you heard anything from him since then?
No, I haven't, actually.
I don't know. Has he posted on Twitter at all lately? I mean, just saying.
I haven't seen him. That's great. But her character is supposed to have a large role in Civil War. She has not been announced for Civil War. I think everybody else in the universe, aside from Nick Fury, has been. So we'll just see what happens. All right. So did you know that in addition to her Marvel job, Cobie has a DC affiliation? Did you know?
I'm trying to remember.
Okay, listen to this clip. You'll find out.
Oh, you're good. I know you voiced Wonder Woman in the Lego movie.
Yes.
And I was just wondering how that was, like, DC versus Marvel. I know it was, like, small part and everything, but also how voice acting was, for, like, how it's different than, like, being there on scene and everything.
Yeah, it was awesome. The guys that were involved, they were actually writers on How I Met Your Mother for a really long time. Chris and Phil, and they're friends of mine, and so they literally called me up and were like, do you want to voice Wonder Woman in the Lego movie? And I was like, absolutely. I'm not an idiot. And so we just went in, and it was funny because Pratt was there, and he was there, and he was doing his thing, and then like I jumped in for like 2 hours, and then it was done. And it was so cool, I think I didn't know how big that movie was going to be. It's really been really cool. I'm a mom, as we talked before, and it's really cool, like seeing this reinvention, or not right, reinvention is the wrong word, but just like this surge of interest towards Legos and all these new things coming up. I don't know if they have a Lego store here, but they have like 3.
Oh, we do, yeah.
It's like the funnest place on earth. It's so fun, and it's creative, and
everything's
I love
awesome,
it.
Right?
Everything is awesome. Exactly. Nice tie-in.
Oh, look at you.
You look good.
Thank you so much.
Well done. Well done, your parents.
So yeah, she played Wonder Woman in the Lego movie.
I forgot about that until right when, I remember when they cast her, I was like, oh, hey, Maria Hill is Wonder Woman. And then I completely forgot about it.
If you have a chance to pick up the entire panel somewhere, go ahead and listen to it. She interacts with everybody on a very high funny level, and they interact back with her and everything. It's really cute. So
no, she was hilarious. Her panel was great.
It was. And do you know the story behind how she became Agent Hill?
I know that Joss Whedon originally wanted her for Wonder Woman.
Right.
Well, this is her story on how she was cast.
My question is about Maria Hill. Before you were casted, how well did you know her? Did you go back into the comics or read Wikipedia or just go with what Joss said?
Well, you want to know something really funny is when this, I auditioned and then I went in to do a screen test with a Sammy J. It's Samuel Jackson, in case you guys can't
name drop.
Just drop that. Don't worry about it. I'll pick it up later. And I went in to test with him, but I didn't know who the character was. Joss had written sides, like a script, a scene to play out with Sam, and I didn't even know this. I wasn't able to know this person's name. I didn't even know who the character was until they were like, "You've got the job. You're playing Maria Hill," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I had to sort of do a little bit of research. But my husband is like such a comic book fan. He's like, "Are you Scarlet Witch? Are you the Wasp? Who are you?" and so it was kind of crazy. But Joss is like he's the best, and it was exciting to be like jumping into this world. So I was like, I'll do whatever you want. I'll play any character. So that's how I sort of found out. I sort of found out after I got the job, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's awesome to have you in the Marvel world.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thanks.
And that is how we got Agent/Director Hill.
That's awesome.
Well, that was a Lego movie. That was awesome. This is just great.
Well, everything
is awesome.
Everything is cool.
When you're
Especially part of a team. Yeah.
So she has kids, as you heard her say before, and she made a point. This was, Lauren, you were there. This was really cool. She actually brought forward a little kid to ask the final question.
Okay, I should point out, this little girl was dressed just exactly like the Wasp from the Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon. Just a perfect costume. Just the cutest little girl. Okay? I want everyone to be picturing this adorable, tiny little girl dressed as Wasp from Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Okay? Go.
So she called forth this girl, and basically they said that they had time for one more question. So she took that last question, but she said, after that question, I'm going to take that question as well from that little girl. And they said, well, it's your panel. You can do whatever you want. She said, good. So this is what happened.
Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
When you're in a movie, is it more fun to punch someone or shoot them?
S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, like, right here, it's so exciting. The great thing about shooting someone, child who's I think younger than 10, is you always get them. I get to always, I could shoot this way and that guy dies. So it's really exciting. So it makes you feel really good when you watch the movie, but I think the fun thing is to choreograph these stunts, because it's sort of like, do you take dance? You dance at all? It's sort of, it's like similar to dance. You sort of have to like make up this whole routine and make sure, unlike dance, you make sure you don't actually hit each other. And so it's kind of a fun thing to do. Yeah.
I think that was the best last question.
That was the best question we've had today. Thank you.
I love it when the little kids ask the actors questions. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was trying so hard to be quiet while I was recording these panels, and that one I think you could probably hear me laughing.
Yeah.
In there.
I want to say thank you to both of you. I want to say thank you to Eric again for taking all the audio. We have some more panels for you later on in the weeks to come that were taken back in May, but we'll get to them eventually, and it'll be awesome. So this was definitely a fun panel, and I'm glad we chose it for this week. So now, are you guys ready for some news?
Oh, I've been ready. I think I've been ready for a while now.
Okay, but
since you told us we were going to start the news like half an hour ago.
I'm going to be an Indian giver again, because I'm going to do a network promo. Tyrion's Landing had Lauren on again this week, and they talked about season 5 as a whole. Lauren, do you have anything to say about that episode?
I know I said really inappropriate things as usual.
No. Well, it's Game of Thrones. Is it really inappropriate?
Yeah, it's Game of Thrones. Everything is inappropriate. We talked a lot about theories that we have of why characters may or may not be dead. And we talked a lot about Game of Thrones news. And we just had a lot of fun. It was a really great cast.
It is. And you guys broadcast on Monday nights on Alpha Geek Radio, as well as the GonnaGeek.com/live site. So you can go check them out. This in particular was episode 90, which was labeled the season 5 wrap up. So go check that out if you are a Game of Thrones fan. And now I am ready to get into some news. So here we go. It's almost July. You know what that means?
Time for new Spider-Man?
It's really hot.
San Diego Comic-Con's coming.
Fireworks? Oh.
Yeah, I know. All great things, right?
I just love the idea that there's an annual event where we choose a new Spider-Man. Can that just be like a yearly thing? Like,
it's like Miss America.
It's that time of year again.
You know when the next time we were going to select a new Spider-Man, it's going to be like 15 years from now.
No, it's going to be in like 3 years.
It's like a Slayer, one is born into each generation, but they don't live for very long, so...
Yeah.
I see. Well, anyway, before we get to the Spider-Man news, we're going to talk about Marvel's San Diego Comic-Con schedule. Yeah, I said that. Marvel's San Diego Comic-Con schedule. And you're like, SP, they're not going there. Well, apparently a portion is the television portion. So they released the television schedule, and basically it's going to be an hour 15-minute long panel in Ballroom 20, and it's going to be both the cast and the crew of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter. So that's going to go on. There's going to be some signing, and there's going to be...
Ooh, Marvel Animation.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Marvel Animation on the next morning on Saturday, I guess.
But not really any of the Netflix crew.
Nope, no Netflix crew. Cast attending will be Clark Gregg, Ming-Na Wen, Chloe Bennett, Brett Dalton, Ian DeCaster, Elizabeth Henstridge, Nick Blood, Adrian Palicki, Henry Simmons, Luke Mitchell, Marissa Tankeron, Jed Whedon, and Jeff Loeb. And of course, unnamed Marvel snipers will be there as well.
And then for Agent Carter, they're going to have Haley Atwell, James Darcy, Tara Butters, Michelle Fazakis, Chris Dingus, Louis Desposito, and Jeff Loeb.
They got a lot of stuff going on.
Dingus.
Yeah. So, later we'll talk about Jeff Feige, but
Jeff Feige?
Feige, Kevin Feige.
Jeff
Feige, Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Jeff is the sniper.
Kevin Feige's brother, Jeff. He gets the coffee.
Jeff is the twin brother that's wearing the mask.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, talking about masks, talk to me about this WASP.
Well, I mean, it stands for White Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
No,
it's
the
probably
WASP,
like
that's an Ant-Man.
Yeah. So the WASP is one of the founding Avengers, Janet Van Dyne, along with Ant-Man, and she's kind of an iconic character and has been really slighted by the MCU, I feel like. Like, yes. I've been wanting to see the Wasp a lot more than I really wanted to see Ant-Man, if I'm being honest.
Yes.
One, because she is one of the founding female members of the Avengers.
Yes, she was the second female hero ever in Marvel Comics.
Right.
Sue Storm came first and then her.
So I feel like we're owed a little bit of waspishness, I guess.
Yeah. And she is so sassy. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Well, it is pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. She brings the snark.
It's hilarious. So the way they're setting this up, and again, if I veer into spoiler territory here, I feel like this has already been publicized, that Michael Douglas's character was the Ant-Man himself at one time. He plays Hank Pym. And there is a Janet Van Dyne character that will be in the film. I don't know too much about it, and again, I don't want to speculate and or accidentally spoil anything. So it seems like she's going to be more a contemporary of Michael Douglas's, so maybe we'll see an older Janet Van Dyne. But we also know that Evangeline Lilly is playing Michael Douglas's daughter. Could she be Janet Van Dyne's daughter as well? Perhaps taking on the mantle of Wasp herself. Who knows?
She's got the haircut for it.
Hey, I think she'd make a fantastic Wasp.
What I was really hoping, back before we knew anything about the second Avengers movie, is that they would introduce Ant-Man and the Wasp and then kill Ant-Man and keep the Wasp.
See, that would have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things would have been better in Avengers 2.
Evidently, in Whedon's original draft for the first Avengers film, the Wasp played a large role, but they also, I think, were planning on having an Ant-Man film a lot sooner. Again, that was one of like the original films that they were going to launch the MCU along with Iron Man, with Edgar Wright directing, which I'm still bummed about that he's not.
Yeah, they should have done that instead of The Incredible Hulk. I said it, Wayne.
Yeah.
You heard me.
No, you're totally 100% right.
You better say sorry to Willie, too, because he's going to come back at us with that one.
Look,
I'm not sorry.
It's the only...
I make no
it's
apologies.
The one directed by a Frenchman. Of course he likes it.
Yeah. Okay, so Avengers 2, let me be clear, it was a good movie. Was it the best ever movie? No. And we've already discussed some issues with it, but it's still a good movie. It was a Marvel movie. It's, one of the 11. There's not a bad one in the bunch. Even the Incredible Hulk isn't bad. It's just not top tier.
It's less good.
Yeah. So I just feel like I have to qualify that lest we get inundated with hate mail. So, yes, I would have preferred an Ant-Man. In retrospect, knowing what I know now, I would have definitely preferred an Ant-Man movie, but I don't think Ant-Man would have had the name recognition as Hulk.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that part of what it was the MCU basically, they set out to use characters that weren't household names, and even Iron Man to a certain extent. Not a lot of people were that familiar with Iron Man from when that movie came out. And I think that was kind of their goal with Ant-Man, was to do like, okay, here's this guy, like, seriously. And you can see it in their marketing campaign now, which is like, seriously, this guy's a hero? Are you kidding me? Like, what? So I still think that's where they were going with it, but I can imagine that Edgar Wright's vision for it was pretty amazing. But
And I wonder where Joss and Kevin Feige and Edgar, I wonder how that trio ever got along, because we're seeing some cracks in the...
Well, I think Joss was in the pro Edgar Wright camp. I don't know if you remember his
Yes, I do.
Twitter picture with the Cornetto raised in solidarity.
I wonder if at that point he must have been already having issues about creative control of Avengers 2 as well.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I think that at that time, Joss probably said, okay, I'm out now. If you're going to do this to Edgar, I'm out.
Now, you guys don't have this in the news. I don't know if this is something that you've talked about, but speaking of directors and creative control, there's a rumor going around that Kenneth Branagh might be coming back to direct Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So, again, they might be casting back to some, we might see a director return to the franchise, which would be kind of neat.
Well, I'll tell you what my philosophy on the news has been ever since the Doctor Strange issue came about, was that unless it's confirmed, we try not to put it in the news.
Okay.
Unless it's really, really interesting. And then
so I'm just floating that out there. That's what I heard somewhere.
Okay.
Heard it from this guy.
You didn't hear it from me. That's my new motto.
This guy. So I'm wondering, how's Ant-Man going to fit in the Marvel Universe after this movie?
Well, he doesn't need a lot of room. See, he could be really tiny, so he'll fit quite easily.
I see what you did there.
He could literally fit anywhere.
Okay, well, IO9 has an article, How Ant-Man Will Affect Marvel's Movies for Years to Come. And it's all about, Kevin Feige had an interview with The Hollywood Reporter where he explained that Ant-Man's release as the final film of Phase 2 is going to be really, really significant and lead into all this stuff into Phase 3. And something about the quantum realm, which I guess has to do with the Pym particles. So who knows how that, well, I say who knows, we'll know in a couple weeks how that'll all smash together and everything. Does that mean that they'll be able to figure out space travel? Does that mean like faster space travel so that they could get out to Thanos quicker?
No, they have to use solar sails.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how wrong they get quantum physics in the next couple weeks.
It's been commented on before. The third phase is much more cosmic than phases 1 and 2 have been. So that could explain why, if they're going to get into the negative zone and Pym particles and all that kind of stuff. Well, not the negative zone. They probably don't have the rights, but who knows?
The totally not negative zone.
The positive zone.
The neutral zone.
I mean, right? Isn't that the opposite? Come on. Oh boy.
Delta quadrant.
The quantum realm. Sorry.
Polar opposite. Get it?
What you did there.
Get it?
Alrighty. So we mentioned it before. Marvel and Sony came out and announced their Spider-Man star and director, and Tom Holland, who...
He survived the Hunger Games to become the new Spider-Man.
I mean, who is this guy?
Right? All right.
This guy, okay, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this earlier. I was looking up, who is this kid? Apparently he was on one of the stage versions of Billy Elliot, which I started giggling because the guy who's currently playing the Thing in the new Fantastic Four movie, Jamie Bell, originated the role of Billy Elliot in the movie.
That Thing.
So Marvel is just catching up all the Billy Elliots now. And then the director, I'm like, okay, well, what did he do? So there's this movie that came out, I guess early this year, late last year. I saw the trailer and I'm watching it. I'm like, this is literally an episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force from the early 2000s. The movie's called Clown, and the director that is going to be doing Spider-Man wrote and directed that movie. So.
John Watts.
Yeah, I'm sitting here doing a lion face right now, like line, L-I-N-E, not lion, rar, because seriously, like I love horror movies, but that was literally an episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I'm not even kidding.
He's also got a film out called Cop Car, which I think did quite well at Sundance, but literally just came out. Like, it's not even in wide release yet.
Yeah, that's what I read. That's the biggest thing that I know about John.
Yeah. And so, obviously, we knew that they were going to cast some preteen-looking white boy, and that was going to be the new Spider-Man. I mean, he pretty much looks like the other guys that were, you know what I mean? Like, color me underwhelmed, I guess. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and obviously seeing Spidey on the big screen is really exciting for me, no matter who's playing him. But, I don't know. I'm trying not to pre-hate. It's not a thing of, like, really that guy. I'm like, okay, it's not exciting
it's just we've seen
for
it.
me. Yeah, it's just not exciting me.
Well,
you know what we haven't seen? Black Panther, Captain Marvel, whatever.
Yeah, again, like, and obviously Spider-Man plays a big role in the Civil War comics, and the Civil War film, they have said that they want him to be involved in some capacity, the Spider-Man character.
Apparently, I read a story that said he's only going to get a cameo.
Right, which to me is like, okay, so the reason that Spider-Man plays an important role in Civil War is he gives up his freaking secret identity. That is a big deal in the comics, and that's why everyone looks at that and goes, okay, if you're going to do a story from Civil War with Spider-Man, it kind of has to be that story because that's what makes it so powerful.
That's going to go well for him in high school. I mean, look what happened to little Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, he gets arrested for speeding.
Oh, did you see what he did with his mom, too? Oh, it's not good.
No, I didn't.
It's not good.
Did she get sold into slavery?
No.
And then kidnapped by Tusken Raiders?
Yeah, we'll just say that there was some domestic violence involved.
Uh-oh.
And move on.
Oh, yeah. Man. Okay, yeah. Now I'm looking at the news and that's...
But back to the Spider-Man thing, though. Like, okay, so you want to do Spider-Man in Civil War. The reason that works is you have an established Spider-Man who has a history. You understand, like, the weight of him revealing his secret identity. Now, obviously, they can't do that with the Civil War film with this brand new Spider-Man because you can't just out of the gate have him reveal his secret identity. So, again, it feels like they're just pandering a little bit. And
I think that they brought on John Watts because they needed a one-shot director.
Honestly, I think part of the thing is that because they're exercising so much creative control that you get your Joss Whedons or your whoever's that are like, well, no, I want to do this thing. And I kind of have proven myself that I kind of know better, right? And I think with these less established directors, they can kind of be like, well, you know, this is your first big film. You just, you know, they just pat them on the head and say, trust us, this is how you're going to do it.
Yeah, probably. So Neil in the chat says, maybe they got the rights to the Micronauts back. Bug. There you go.
Oh, Micronauts.
Yeah, so there's a link in the show notes about Kevin Feige explaining how Marvel will be involved in Sony's Spider-Man movie. I didn't really see anything earth-shaking in there, so you can go ahead and catch that. We already talked about Spider-Man not only being in Civil War, but it being just a cameo.
Yeah.
And then we also got some news about Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Yes. So we've been hearing rumors for a long time. Hey, Chiwetel Ejiofor is going to be in Doctor Strange. Chiwetel Ejiofor is going to be playing Baron Mordo. And according to Deadline.com, I guess it's official that Chiwetel Ejiofor will be playing Baron Mordo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very amused because on this picture, they're using the picture of Baron Mordo from Marvel's Avengers Alliance on Facebook. But yeah, so I guess that's happening. And they mentioned Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One.
Right.
So
there was a lot of discussion about that one.
Yeah.
When, you're going to have this weird looking white lady play this old Chinese dude. And then, or Tibetan, Tibetan. And then when Chiwetel Ejiofor was cast, everybody was like, yeah, all right, cool.
Cool.
So obviously they are bringing the star power to Doctor Strange. And it's kind of interesting because you've got Benedict Cumberbatch, Tilda Swinton, Chiwetel Ejiofor. These are like really, really, really good actors. This is your dream cast for like an Oscar picture. And all of them have been nominated, right? This is pretty big. So whatever tone that they're going for with this film, it's going to be really interesting to see this cast. And you would know Chiwetel Ejiofor as the operative from Serenity, right? So he's done obviously a genre picture before, and this would be a really cool role for him. Now, Baron Mordo is kind of like the nemesis of Doctor Strange, but they were trained together by the Ancient One, and they were both up for the role of Sorcerer Supreme, and it went to Doctor Strange and not Baron Mordo. So he was kind of PO'd about that.
And Baron Mordo thought he was the prettiest princess, and he should have gotten the crown.
Yeah, he should have gotten the crown, and therefore they have to be mortal enemies from here on out. So
can't wait to see what happens when he gets together with Loki.
And if you look at Baron Mordo in the comics, he kind of looks a lot like Doctor Strange. He's got pointy hair and a goatee and stuff like that.
But his eyes are darker because he's the bad guy.
Right. So I like that they're obviously casting someone who's going to look drastically different from Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yep. So we had a little cool thing happen. We always like to report the awe or cool stuff. And I guess in a homage to his son, a father creates an amazing Spider Dad short film to raise money for his son, for a charity in the memory of his son. Did you guys take a look at this?
Oh.
Yeah, it's really cool. The link will be in the show notes, so go ahead, check it out if you haven't already seen it. It's pretty cool. And also, I put in a story about the Gillette razors that they conducted a focus group with the Avenger Inspire technology. We talked about this a few weeks back, and I just needed to put that in there to say, hey, it's going on. It's continuing.
Okay, yeah, I love the little preview picture with the guy holding up the cap one to his face. He's just looking so serious as he has this cap-inspired razor. Like, he's holding it like, I don't know, like he's talking to it almost.
I talk to my razors all the time. Don't you cut me. Don't you cut me.
Do they ever listen?
All the time.
I see you looking at me, Razor. Don't give me that look.
So, and then, as mentioned before, Kevin Feige explains why Marvel is skipping Comic-Con. And basically he says, we just didn't have any Comic-Con
we got nothing
related news. And I call BS on that, but okay, whatever.
Well, I mean, Ant-Man will have just come out, right? So it won't be like, okay, we'll give you the exclusive preview of Ant-Man because like everyone will literally.
But they had the same thing happen last year with Guardians of the Galaxy, and they had Avengers 2 coming up. We have Civil War coming up. They could very well just get the cast of Civil War around the table again, the announced cast at least, and say, hey, we're going to do this again, sort of thing.
Or they could announce Captain Marvel casting.
Yeah.
I think if they weren't filming Civil War right now, that they could do that. But like, literally, like everyone's filming right now, so I don't think they can. Pull them away.
The things that everybody has loved about Marvel, the Comic-Con appearances, the one-shots, that stuff, it really hasn't happened lately. And I'm wondering if this is because of the creative differences that have been going on, or because Kevin Feige is a little bit overrun with everything.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, when they were doing the one-shots and all the Comic-Con appearances and everything, they weren't developing 4 different TV shows simultaneously and drastically expanding their cinematic universe in the way that they are now.
I know, I get it. I'm just saying that that's the stuff that we loved from Marvel, and we're not getting it now. So I'm just wondering if when they have their first miss, and I have no idea when that's going to be. A lot of people, oh, Ant-Man. Well, a lot of people said that with Guardians of the Galaxy last year too. So, whatever. When they have their first miss is going to be when they're going to have their return to base and say, we need to start doing this stuff again. And I don't see it coming anytime soon. We'll see. So in the meantime, apparently, Lauren, you ran into some stories about the Sony hacks and Spider-Man?
Yeah. So I was listening to another podcast that I like, Hollywood Babylon, where, they talk about Hollywood news. They make fun of stuff. And when they got to their geek news section, they were talking about this reveal from the Sony hacks. So I guess this is a pretty standard thing whenever you have a licensing agreement where you give a list of like do's and don'ts with the character that you're licensing. So this is back from when Marvel first licensed Spider-Man out to Sony, and it's Peter Parker character traits and Spider-Man character traits. And these are like the mandatory things that they have to abide by. So there's, the things that you'd expect, like full name is Peter Benjamin Parker, raised by Aunt May and Uncle Ben in New York. He designs his first red and blue costume, gets his powers by being bitten by a spider. But the one that made people go, wait, what is that he is Caucasian and heterosexual? And everyone was just like, but wait a second, what? Why was this so important? Yeah. Because, well, first of all, as it was pointed out, Marvel was okay with Nick Fury and Johnny Storm being portrayed as a different race than they are in the comics. But Spider-Man has a costume that literally covers his entire body. So what's the problem?
Yeah.
And in regards to his sexuality, even Andrew Garfield was saying, why can't we discover that he's exploring his own sexuality? It's hardly groundbreaking. So, granted, this was from when I think they first had that agreement with Sony. So
early 90s, maybe?
Yeah. So we don't know what their current do and don'ts list looks like.
Well, they might still be bound by that contract.
There's also fine print in it that says, unless he's been portrayed that way in the comic books first.
Well, with these Spider-Man traits, it says, male, does not torture, starred. Does not kill unless in defense of self or others, starred. So I guess this is like the important stuff. Does not use foul language beyond PG-13. Does not smoke tobacco, starred. Does not sell or distribute illegal drugs, starred. Does not abuse alcohol, starred. Come on. I think it'd be hilarious to have like drunk, angry Spider-Man. Does not have sex before the age of 16 and does not have sex with anyone below the age of 16.
Mm-hmm. If these did happen, it would be called something like Venture Brothers.
And not a homosexual unless Marvel has portrayed the alter ego as a homosexual.
So, I mean, if you want to get into the way they just announced that, like, Miles Morales will be the new Spider-Man once Secret Wars wraps up, you could make an argument to be like, okay, well, that's Spider-Man in the comics now.
But it's still the alter ego, so I think this still applies to Peter Parker.
Right. Very true.
So, we'll see.
All right. We will see.
But it's one of those things where if you go and you look at Hollywood has this weird thing about their casting. Like if you go and you look for, I remember when Runaways, the comic they were looking into maybe doing a TV show out of it, and the casting call was leaked. And the character of Nico Minoru is very explicitly Japanese American. It factors into her character, factors into her parents and everything. And I think that, if I remember correctly, they put like Caucasian in her casting call. And everyone was like, wait, what? And they keep doing stuff like this, where you'll see casting calls for Caucasian or any other race, which is kind of code for we want a white person, but we'll put any other race just so
we don't get sued.
Yeah. And you keep seeing this, and it's really, Hollywood has a problem.
Just a bit. And of course, Sony's had a lot of problems that were exposed because of the hacks and stuff. So you just never know who else is doing this now. Sony got caught.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like this is probably not something that's just them doing it. They're just the only ones that got caught.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And I think for what it's worth, we might see some of this go away sooner than later. I mean, maybe not in terms of Spider-Man, but obviously with the changes that are made to, like, just like we were talking about, the Doctor Strange casting, although those aren't as big, well-known characters, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I just, okay, kind of overwhelmed by what has been going on. And it's kind of, even if the emails didn't come out, it was obvious that what was going on in the casting and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, let's get over it and let's move on. People are people. Peoples is peoples, as the Muppets Take Manhattan have taught me.
Right.
So
SP talk good.
Yeah. It's getting late, beyond SP's bedtime. So Peggy Carter showrunners are now writing the Captain Marvel comic. Tell me all about this. I'm interested.
Okay. Captain Marvel comic is currently, I should say, being written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, who is amazing. And she announced recently that she's leaving because she has a whole bunch of other stuff going on too. And she's been working on this comic for several years. And it's amazing. And everyone has been very sad about this because, again, she is amazing. But now we don't have to be quite so sad because a couple days ago they announced the new creative team for Captain Marvel. And that is Tara Butters and Michelle Fazakis, who we might know as the showrunners for Agent Carter, I should say. So, given the work that they did on Agent Carter, I think they have a pretty good grasp of, the Marvel Universe. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Captain Marvel. In this article that we're linking on Fast Company, they're talking about what they'll be bringing to the title. And one of the things that I really like is a small change in the character design, which is that she's already undergone kind of okay, this is a really stupid thing to talk about, but it pleased me. She had a hair redesign lately because of the way that her uniform helmet goes. So it looks like she has this kind of faux hawk thing. And she has this long hair that's coming out the back. And they mentioned that, she wants to be a test pilot and she's military. So now she has shorter hair because, if you're in the military and you have long hair, it's, it takes a lot to deal with and she's always getting into brawls. So long hair is something that people can grab. So this is just something that's, a bit more military and a bit more practical. And with the costume and everything, she just looks fantastic in this little character design sketch they included. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. I'm excited to learn anything about Captain Marvel.
Katie Sackhoff is willing to cut her hair, probably.
Remember when her hair was really short for Starbuck?
Right.
Come on.
Right. And Natalie Dormer will even shave her head. So
exactly.
We've got
she'll
options.
Shave half her head. She wanted
to shave her whole head, but then they were like, no!
Half the head.
Because the character in Mockingjay actually has a shaved head. So she's like, yeah, I'll do it. They're like, no, please, no.
I mean, everybody in Game of Thrones wears a wig anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, pretty
Except
much.
for Kit Harington. He was told he was not allowed to cut his hair.
And then, he's cut his hair now.
Well, yeah, now, okay, this is one of the things we talked about on Train's Landing Monday. Just examining every picture of him taken in the last week, trying to figure out, okay, how short is his hair now?
Can he grow it back?
Exactly.
And then going back and looking through years of his photos to try and figure out how quickly his hair grows to see.
Yeah. We've concluded that it is about season 1 Jon Snow short.
Okay. And this is your Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. hair report.
Gotta work it in there somewhere.
And then I threw this other link in last minute. It's an updated infographic about who has what movie rights.
I was taking a look at that. That is awesome.
Yeah, everyone should go in and check it out. I'm sure we posted the first one way back when, but this one is updated to show that they've reacquired some rights or they're sharing rights with some characters now. So, cool stuff.
I mean, with the whole Sony Spider-Man deal and everything else, although I'm kind of curious, Quicksilver, I know the rights are listed there, but shouldn't it?
If they're mutants, they're X-Men. If they're not mutants,
if they're Avengers, they're Marvel.
They can be, they can be with the Marvel.
I get that, but I mean, he's dead, so.
Yeah, but they still have the rights to that corpse.
They still have the right to him. And it looks like he's going to be back in the
They're going to have him on display in a tank.
Yeah.
in New Avengers headquarters.
Oh, why would you say that?
Did you guys hear the joke about Captain America's shield is made out of vibranium? What's Hawkeye's shield made out of?
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver.
Y'all are terrible.
Terrible. So our last news story is not terrible. It's about Miles Morales, and he will be Marvel Comic Universe's main Spider-Man starting this fall.
How many different Spider-Men have we had? Like, I don't know.
1 billion.
This is, again, like, this is one of the things, like, I grew up reading Maximum Clonage and the Clone Saga and loving Scarlet Spider, and then Ben Reilly took over as Spider-Man, and then Peter Parker came back, and then oops, he switched his brain with Dr. Octopus, and then
like you do,
and then he wasn't, and then he came back, and then now you're gonna have Miles Morales, which is great. Yeah,
he's a fun character. I really love his title, and I'm glad that they're bringing him into, like, now that they're making it all one universe, that he's playing with the big boys.
Big boys. Yep. So it'll be fun to see Miles in the comics this fall, especially since we are going to get Peter Parker in the MCU. So that's all the news we have for this week. And just a quick promo for another podcast that I do, Voices of Defiance. It is in the middle of season 3 of Defiance. So we talk a lot about what's going on in Defiance, and it's awesome, and the cast and crew are interacting with us, so it's been one of the funner seasons so far of Defiance for us, and of course Sean is infinitely quotable, so if you want to hear any of his quotes, you can tune into the podcast.
But funner is still not a word.
Well, yeah, I don't care. I'll say it even if it's not a word. There you go. All right, so that's it for the news. We'll get to some short feedback, and then we'll punch her out. As always, we love the feedback that we get from you guys. Just a few notes on some feedback that we have received. The operator tweeted us. Thank you very much, Op. He said, I told Nightwing over and over. And that was when we said it was a Wheaton show. It got good. That was from our new Clamor account, or my new Clamor account. I've been clamoring a lot of stuff. If you don't know what Clamor is, just go to our Twitter account, click on any of the links, and you will find 18-second audio bits from our previous podcasts. So that is all cool. Also, Mr. Paracletes and Kodiak GWC tweeted us some great articles. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We really appreciate that. And I think Richard was the one who tweeted me and told me that Tom Holland was Spider-Man. So thank you very much, sir. And then also, yes, Andy is still emailing us from the past Andy. And he emailed us on episode 6 of Daredevil way back when on April 13th. And he said, basically, half the season and still no stick. Well, if you would have looked at the title for the next episode, you would have found that he was there. But thank you very much for sending us those emails. Really appreciate that.
Less stick than you can shake a stick at.
That's right. The puns keep on coming when you got Lobster on the cast, let me tell you. Do you guys have any other feedback moments that you received during the week? I'll take that as a no. So. And we'll get out of here so we can get to bed. Woo, we're done. Yay for this week. Yay. Just a reminder, we'll be back on July 12th, Sunday, July 12th. We were going to be talking about Ant-Man, and then we'll be coming back July 22nd for Stick with Wing, hopefully. And you can find all our great content on our website, legendsofshield.com. We do have a voicemail, 844-THE-BUS-1. I do miss the bus. 844-843-2871. Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube. We also have forums at forums.GonnaGeek.com. Also, you can get there on your Tapatalk app, which is pretty cool. So, you know what? We haven't had a science question in a while. I want a science question. So, go ahead, give us that. So, Lobster, thank you very much for adorning us with your presence tonight. It was really appreciated, sir.
I'm not sure what adorning is, but I am happy to provide that service.
You betcha. And I also want to thank everybody in the chat and that have been listening to us both on YouTube and Mixlr. We really appreciate you dropping by on your Wednesday nights.
Thank you to Andy for sending us an email. Those are always fun to read through.
Thank you for everyone who follows us on Twitter, and for everyone who tweets us news, everyone who comments during the live tweets. Yeah, just everyone on Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we have come to the end of the podcast, and we are looking forward to getting some R&R and then coming back at you with the second half of Daredevil after the 4th of July. So since I won't be talking to you guys before then, have a happy 4th and be safe and enjoy.
Don't blow up your fingers.
Until next time, I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Lobster.
Bye. See you guys next week. Or on the 12th.
See ya.
Later.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to GonnaGeek.com and you will find all of our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual host and do not represent Legends, Stream, or GonnaGeek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation. No infringement is intended.
Old Man Logan #2 picks up with Logan scaling the S.H.I.E.L.D. wall and then running into some familiar For fans of some of the younger X characters out there, or anyone reading Lumberding, Given that Marvel originally introduced the Squadron Supreme in the 1970s as an intentional ripoff of the Justice League, the obvious references to the...
Fatty, shut up.
Yeah, fatty. Jeez, that was rude.
Shut up.
You fat lard.
This cat is stupid and defective.
I think I caught a meow on the last podcast I edited.
Wouldn't surprise me. My cat's a jerk.
Cats.
They really are.
Sorry. Come on.
Projector won't start. Hit it a couple times.
A lot more won't start. Just keep pulling the cable.
What do you want to know? I'll tell you everything about Marvel. I have so many secrets to tell you right now.
I'm just killing. They would shoot me. There's a sniper. I think Renner's in the back, actually, getting ready.
Well, don't be shy, Jeremy. Come on. Call me.
Come on. Hey, he is cute.
Just kidding. Well, what was it like working on these franchises? What is it like being a woman in these?
Yeah, it's crazy. They're so big. I mean, you see what you see on the screen, and I mean, for us, it gets split up into different parts, obviously, and it doesn't seem like when you're in it, it doesn't seem like you don't get to see the special effects, obviously, but I will say, for Ultron, this past year, the sets were just insane. For like Stark Tower, for example, what you saw on screen was really what was built by this amazing team of people in London, and it was massive. It was 3 stories. There was tons of glass. Everybody had like a little station. There was the lab, and there was the robotics lab, and there was, you know, my little cubicle, my little desk in the corner. So that was really cool. It felt a little bit more tangible and easier to shoot. You weren't just like looking at X's on green screens and such. But it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. You guys know it's like this Marvel world. It's so huge, and it goes so deep, and there's so many characters, and there's so many storylines, and so, you know, however many years ago it's been now since we started the first one, when I got it through Jaws, who's amazing. It was kind of like a dream come true. It's awesome. I get really weird. I talk really close to microphones.
Now, I do have to say, I was advised, no flash photography, please. We don't want
no flash photography.
Sorry, it's just kind of a big deal. So.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Why is there no Flash? Because it's distracting to me?
I mean, maybe you'll go blind?
I don't know. Maybe so many.
I mean, he's taking one right now. Clearly it's not following
But there's no Flash. I don't know. I understand that when you're like in the middle of like a musical ballad or something, but I think it's like fine.
Oh, well,
it's not going to throw me.
See, she's really awesome.
So this is a actor question.
Okay.
So you were in Winter Soldier, and that means you were directed by the Russo brothers.
Yes.
And you have had a long-standing relationship with Joss, and knowing his circle and being in Avengers and Ultron. Mm-hmm. Can you compare and contrast the two directing groups, and what's that going to mean going forward, since the Russo brothers are going to be, they're doing Civil War now, mm-hmm. and they're doing Infinity War 1 and 2. Could you talk to us about that?
Well, I mean, I can talk about my own experience with the two or the three people that you're talking about. I think it's like, in general, the movies are so different tonally, visually, and I think that's on purpose. Joss is sort of like, he's got this huge brain and it's full of so many, like, he knows these characters so much better than, you know, I'll ever know, or a lot of people will ever know. He's been involved in the comic books. He's you know, been in this world for so long, and it's kind of, you know, what he does. So for the bigger Avengers films, I feel like that's, you know, that's the man you wanted to have just to spearhead sort of this jump off, and so that was cool. The Russo brothers, they're fantastic. I feel like there was a little bit more improv involved. We were a little bit more like, we try a lot of different dialogue and just try to figure out what was right. I think that just because he knows the world so well, and he's a writer and he wrote the script. I think that's really what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. Josh is writing and he's directing. The Russo brothers are not. And so, you know, every word that we're saying written by Joss is like very specific. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay. Does that answer your question?
That answers my question.
Do you prefer television, film, or the stage?
Yeah, well, first of all, the cool thing that is happening in TV now, when I started, you know, I did How I Met Your Mother. When I started How I Met Your Mother, I was 22 years old, and I'm 47, guys.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
I was like, wait.
But I am really good at math.
That's why you're an actress.
That's why I'm an actress. I don't ever have to do math. I hire people to do that. Hi, how are you?
Hello. Fine, how are you?
Good, thank you. What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Heather from Houston, Texas, born and raised.
Fantastic.
So my question is more on a personal note. We're all here because we geek out and fangirl, fanboy over all of y'all.
Yeah.
Who would you, or who have you, or who would you like to meet that you would totally geek out and fangirl over?
Ooh, good question. Gosh, well, I will say, like, meeting RDJ was like was a tough one for me. Like, Lobster, how are you doing? Hi. Like, I don't think words were here, but they didn't go down this way and out. And so that was a big one, because I've been a big fan, and then to like pretend like I knew what I was talking about to like RDJ was challenging. Yeah, but I think it's, you know, Meryl Streep would be insane. Yeah, but I would say, like, in this world, Robert was a big one, and now we're buds. We're best buds now. Sure, we'll say that. Thank you.
Very good, outstanding. And just on as a side note, I just want to let you know, Let's Go to the Mall changed my life.
Oh. Are you single, sir? Are you single man? Are you single? He's very attractive. You guys probably can't see his face, but he's very polite and very attractive. So if there's any single ladies, do you want to hunt this one down? Yeah.
So, Maria Hill, she's usually seen directing orders at people.
Yes.
And in Age of Ultron, she was
like
at a
party.
Boss. Yes.
Sorry.
And in Age of Ultron, she was at a party. When will we see her kicking some butts?
Kicking some butts. I love that. Oh, I can't. This is why I should not. Anyway, I'm just. Okay.
I think you're okay. No,
yeah.
you guys aren't gonna.
When am I gonna be seen kicking some butts? I don't know. When you guys write in and say, let's see Maria Hill kicking some butts. I mean, the thing is about Maria Hill, I mean, she's surrounded by superheroes and she's human. And the thing that I actually really like about the character of Maria Hill is that she really is the one making the choice to be in this insane world. A lot of the other superheroes, you know, they have a choice, but they also they have superpowers. They have the abilities to heal themselves. They have super strength. They have all these powers. So it's sort of like, you gotta do something for the good of humanity, right? But Maria Hill, alongside with, you know, like Fury and all these like super agents, it's like, it's a really interesting choice to be like, I'm putting myself in harm's way for the better of people. And I think that there's something very honorable about that. So I don't know when I'm going to be hitting anybody, but hopefully soon, because I enjoy it.
Maybe Exotic Beauty number 2. Hey,
maybe in the film Exotic Beauty coming out.
Like a boss.
So you play Mariah Hill. She's a strong female character, and I know that Marvel is working on bringing more strong female characters onto the big screen and stuff. So I'm wondering if you're excited to see that like movement come to the universe.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, there are so many great female characters within the comic books, within, you know, within everything leading up to these films. So it's exciting to just see them now popping up in the movies. But I welcome all ladies.
Yeah.
I think,
girl
you know,
power.
what?
I said girl power.
Girl power, exactly. Yeah. So I say the more the merrier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I had for you.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Also, tell all of the Avengers that I love them so much.
I'm going to text them after.
Diana.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you too.
Hey guys, that was fun.
It was. Thanks for coming. It was great.
Thanks for having me. I love to talk about the Marvel.
Yeah, it's fun. And this stuff is fun this time of the year. It's just like, hey, this is cool. We get to talk about it. So.
Good. It be good times.
It definitely is. Is that me?
It's something terrible is happening.
The brain.
Was that me?
What just happened?
I don't know.
Something terrible.
Since I didn't hear it, I'm assuming it was
it's all
me,
your
and
fault.
I'm sorry.
Good job. My ears are bleeding now. Thanks for having me. I look forward to discussing the landmark case, Nelson v. Murdoch. Should have put that in there. That should have been on the cast, but yeah, whatever. So that's the next time I'll be back, and that will be in August, you said. So
yep.
Got a month or so off.
Broadcast has been successfully terminated.